Do we realize the depth of sin and of iniquity? Aren't you now beginning to see why the Word had to be made flesh? What's the point of giving teaching to people who hate the light? No, knowledge and instruction can never save such people. They hate the light and they despise the light. Read the pages of these four Gospels and you'll find that when our blessed Lord was here amongst them, they said he hath a devil. They said, this man is of Beelzebub, this man's a blasphemer, the Son of God, in all his perfection, in all his glory, the Word made flesh, shining in his glory. These men who had been enlightened said, we beheld his glory, the glory is of the only begotten of the Father, full of grace and truth. But the Pharisee said, this fellow, away with him, crucify him. He's a blasphemer, get rid of him. Not only do they not recognize it, they hate it, they despise it. And listen to the Apostle Paul putting this again. The natural man, that's man as he's born into this world. Here's man in the darkness. The natural man receiveth not the things of the Spirit of God, for they are foolishness unto him. Neither can he receive them, because they are spiritually discerned. Isn't that still the trouble? It isn't merely that men don't recognize the Lord and his teaching and his salvation, they despise it. They despise the blood of Christ in particular and ridicule it and pour contempt upon it. They hate the doctrine of the atonement. They hate the doctrine of the rebirth. With disdain, they regard it as utter folly and foolishness. They won't have anything to do with it. They despise it. They hate it. They're antagonistic to it. If you come and give them a moral and an ethical teaching, they'll say they're very interested. Why? They think they can do it, but they know that this utterly condemns them, and they hate it. Christ was crucified. He was hated by the world. He came to his own, and his own received him not. No, they rejected him. They were the very people who crucified him. Man can't recognize it. He hates it and despises it, and as I say, he finally rejects it. And here it is all before us in the prologue. The light shineth in darkness, and the darkness apprehended it not. He came unto his own, and his own received him not. He was in the world, and the world was made by him, and the world knew him not. And so he said in his high priestly prayer that is recorded in the 17th chapter of this gospel, Holy Father, he says, the world hath not known thee, and it hadn't known him. And it doesn't know his people. It doesn't recognize them. It's persecuted them throughout the centuries. Our Lord himself said, I am come in my Father's name, and ye receive me not. If another man shall come in his own name, him ye will receive. And that's what the world has been doing. It idolizes its great men, its statesmen, its philosophers, its kings and queens and princes. It idolizes them. But when he, the Lord of glory, comes, it doesn't recognize him, it doesn't receive him, it rejects him, it hates him. And that is entirely owing to the fact that it's dark and in the darkness. Man's in the dark, and the darkness is in him, in the very vitals of his being. But this is the extraordinary thing and the glorious thing we are told. The light shineth in the darkness. It goes on in spite of this. And it is the only light. There is no philosophy or human teaching that can deal with such a predicament. And we have it on record that the world by wisdom knew not God. The Greek philosophers were feeling after him. If haply they might feel after him and find him, but they couldn't. Your greatest brains have never arrived at God. They never will. There is only one light that can give us light on God. No man hath seen God at any time. The only begotten Son, which is in the bosom of the Father. He hath declared him. And he alone can declare him. And he alone can give us light on every problem that we have. And what we are told in this verse has been true from the beginning. Man rebelled against God, and he fell and became enshrouded by darkness, and the darkness entered his own soul. But thank God, God came down into the garden in the cool of the evening, and he gave the promise of the seed of the woman that should bruise the serpent's head. The light is shining in the darkness of a fallen Eden. What's your Old Testament? Oh, it's nothing but the light shining in the darkness. Look at Lot pleading there in Sodom and Gomorrah. Look at Noah before that, in the days before the flood, for 120 years building his ark, pleading with these people. What is it? Oh, it's the glimmer of light, the light of Jesus Christ shining in the darkness. Noah, Lot, Abraham, the patriarchs, the whole nation of Israel, the prophets. What is this? It's the light shining in the darkness. There was no other light, but the light went on shining. The light from Christ. It's all from him and it's all about him. He is the light. In him was life, and the life was the light of men, and the light shineth in the darkness. And it goes on, and eventually he came, and he said, I am the light of the world. He that followeth me shall not walk in darkness, but shall have the light of life. And while I am in the world, I am the light of the world. And then he goes, but he leaves a body of people, 12 ordinary men, illiterate and uneducated. But he said, you are the light of the world. I'm making you the light of the world. You'll reflect me. I'll fill you with my spirit, and you'll shed forth this light that is mine. You are the light of the world, as I am the light of the world, and because I am the light of the world. And he's gone on shining. And there on the road to Damascus he shines into the heart of a rebel called Saul of Tarsus, who hated him, blasphemed him, who thought he was all wrong and did his best to exterminate his cause. But suddenly the light shone into his heart. So he says, God, who commanded the light to shine out of darkness, hath shined in our hearts to give the light of the knowledge of the glory of God in the face of Jesus Christ. He takes this light from heaven to enlighten our darkness, to give us understanding and knowledge, and it comes from this blessed Lord, and he's still doing it. He sent his Holy Spirit upon the church in order that she might be made an agency for disseminating the light, shining it forth. And you and I, as Christian people, are those who have received the light. We have been enlightened. Ye were sometimes darkness, but now are ye light in the Lord. Live as the children of light, says the apostle. Very well, my friend. Is it not obvious that we must understand these matters if we are to enjoy the full blessings of this great Christian gospel and salvation? Why is it, I ask again, that we are not thrilled at the thought of this? Why doesn't this bring us to our feet? Why doesn't this fill us with a sense of exultation and of rejoicing that we can scarcely contain? Why are we as we are? Why is the church lifeless and lethargic? I suggest to you that those are the two main reasons. We haven't beheld sufficient of his glory, and we've never realized the depth of the iniquity and the darkness out of which he has rescued us. A light view of sin always leads to a superficial salvation and to a superficial Christian life. You've got to measure the heights of his glory. You've got to measure the depth of our own natural iniquity and darkness. And as you get the two, you then begin to see something of the wonders of his grace. May God enable us to realize this, that if we are Christians this morning, it is because the light has shined into our darkness. The darkness that was so deep that we couldn't even recognize the light. The darkness that was so deep that it made us hate the light. The darkness that was so deep that it made us reject the light. But the light has shined, it's penetrated through it, and has given us the blessed illumination. And we have come to know him who is life and light and glory.